Let me ask you something. What if the man you've been defending to your friends, the one you keep making excuses for, the one you keep telling yourself is just going through something, what if he's not confused at all? What if everything he's doing is completely intentional? Now, I know that's hard to hear because most of us want to believe the best in people, especially someone we have feelings for. And society tells us, give them the benefit of the doubt, be patient, love is a process. And yeah, sometimes that's true. But here's what nobody tells you. Some men are not confused. They are strategic. And there is a massive difference between a man who's figuring things out and a man who is running games on you. And today I'm going to show you exactly what those games look like, how they work, why they work, and most importantly, what you should do when you spot them. Because if you miss these signs, you won't just waste time, you'll lose yourself. Here's the first thing I want you to understand before we go through these 5 games. Most people think that when a man plays games in a relationship, it means he doesn't care about you. And that is only partially true. Some men play games precisely because they do care, but they're afraid. Some play games because it's the only dynamic they know. Some play games because they've learned through experience that the push-pull dynamic keeps people hooked. And some, and this is the one I really want you to pay attention to, some play games because they are deliberately choosing not to commit to you while simultaneously not letting you go. So the issue isn't always cruelty. The issue is that all of these games have the same effect on you regardless of the man's motivation. They keep you emotionally unstable. They keep you guessing. They keep you investing. And the longer you're in it, the harder it becomes to walk away. Not because the connection is deep, but because the psychological cycle has become addictive. And I mean that literally. The science of intermittent reinforcement tells us that unpredictable rewards are more psychologically binding than consistent ones. Slot machines work on the same principle. You don't win every time, and that's exactly why you keep pulling the lever. So today, I'm not just going to name these games. I'm going to explain the psychology behind why they work, what he gets out of them, what it's costing you, and the exact shift in mindset you need to break the cycle. 5 games, 5 patterns. And by the end of this, you'll be able to spot them in real time, not in hindsight 6 months from now when you're trying to figure out what went wrong. All right, game number 1. And if you've been in the dating world for any length of time, you've experienced this one. It's the hot and cold game. And it is the most common, most confusing, and honestly most effective psychological trap a man can run on a woman. Here's how it works. He's incredibly present, incredibly attentive, incredibly warm, and then out of nowhere, he pulls back. He goes cold. The texts slow down. The energy shifts. And you're sitting there wondering, what did I do? Did something change? Did I say something wrong? And then just when you're about to mentally check out, he comes back. Full energy, affectionate, present, like nothing happened. And you feel relieved. You feel like things are good again. And that relief, that warmth you feel when he comes back, that is the trap. Here's the psychology behind it. When someone is consistently warm and present, you eventually adjust to that as the baseline. It's just normal. But when he goes cold, you experience what psychologists call emotional withdrawal. And your brain's natural response to withdrawal is to chase the thing that made you feel good. You start reaching out more, initiating more, trying to figure out what you can do to bring back that warmth. And when he does come back, the relief is so strong that it wipes out the pain of the cold phase. Over time, your brain starts to associate him with both the pain and the relief. And that combination is chemically identical to what happens in cycles of emotional dependency. Now, I was talking to someone recently, a client who came to me absolutely convinced that the man she was seeing was the one. She described their dynamic as intense. And when I asked her what she meant by that, she said, "I've never felt this strongly about anyone. When things are good, it's amazing. And when things are bad, it destroys me." And I said, "That's not intensity, that's instability." Those are two very different things. Love should feel like a place you can breathe, not a place where you're constantly trying to earn your oxygen. So how do you spot this game in real time? Pay attention to consistency, not just warmth. Because a man who genuinely wants you will be warm consistently. He might have off days, everyone does, but the pattern will be one of steady, reliable presence. The moment you notice that his energy is highly conditional, that it shifts without explanation and resets without accountability, that is a pattern, not a personality quirk. And a pattern tells you everything about what your future with this person will look like. The mindset shift here is this: stop measuring the relationship by its highs. Anyone can have a good day. Start measuring it by how he shows up when things are neutral, when there's no special occasion, when you haven't done anything particularly impressive or appealing. Is he still there? Is he still consistent? Because consistency in the mundane is the foundation of everything real. Game number 2, and this one is sneaky because it feels like progress when it's actually the opposite. I call it the breadcrumbing game. And if hot and cold is about pulling his energy in and out, breadcrumbing is about giving you just enough attention, just enough affection, just enough hope to keep you in his orbit without actually moving the relationship forward. Think about it like this. Imagine you're on a road trip and you're running low on fuel. Every few hours, someone pumps exactly 2 gallons into your tank. Enough to keep you moving, not enough to actually get anywhere. That's breadcrumbing. It's designed to maintain your availability without requiring his investment. The thing that makes breadcrumbing so effective is that the breadcrumbs themselves are genuinely nice. He sends you a thoughtful text out of nowhere. He shows up for one meaningful evening and it's wonderful. He says something future-oriented, something that sounds like he's thinking about the two of you long-term. But then nothing materializes. No real progression. No increased commitment. And every time you start to pull back or question things, another breadcrumb appears. Now, here's what most people get wrong about this. They think breadcrumbing is something a man does because he's not that interested. Sometimes that's true. But more often, breadcrumbing is something a man does because he wants to keep his options open without closing yours. You see, if you fully walk away, he loses access to your attention, your affection, your emotional investment. And some men are not ready to commit, but they're also not willing to release what they have. So they maintain the minimum required to keep you engaged. I had a client who was talking to a man for 9 months. 9 months. And every time she was ready to walk, he'd do something to reignite the hope. A birthday gesture here, a vulnerable conversation there, a compliment that felt like a turning point. And then back to the same pattern. I asked her, in 9 months, has anything materially changed about your situation with him? She paused for a long time. And then she said no. And I told her, then what you have is not a slow building relationship. What you have is a well-managed holding pattern. The way you identify breadcrumbing is simple but uncomfortable. Ask yourself, is this relationship moving? Not fast. Movement doesn't have to be fast, but is it moving in a direction? Is there more clarity now than there was 3 months ago? More commitment, more transparency, more definition. If the honest answer is no, then all the nice moments in between are not progress. They are maintenance. The mindset shift is this: the quality of individual moments does not determine the health of a relationship. The trajectory does. A man who is serious about you will not just give you beautiful moments. He will give you a direction. Game number 3, and this one people almost never talk about because on the surface, it can look like passion. It's the jealousy game. And it comes in 2 flavors. There's the man who deliberately makes you jealous to test your reaction and keep you in a competitive mindset. And then there's the man who uses your jealousy against you to frame your healthy concerns as insecurity. Both versions are manipulation. They just attack from different angles. Let me break down the first version. A man who makes you jealous intentionally is a man who has learned that jealousy creates emotional urgency. He mentions other women casually, strategically. He's a little too comfortable talking about women who are interested in him. He's visible on social media in ways that he knows will provoke a reaction. And when you react, when you show that you're affected, he either gets satisfaction from knowing he has that power over you, or he uses your reaction to claim that you're too needy or too emotional. Either way, he wins in his mind. He's either confirmed his value to himself, or he's found a way to put you on the defensive. Now, the second version, using your jealousy against you, is even more insidious. Here's how it plays out. He does something that would reasonably bother most people. You bring it up. And instead of addressing the thing you brought up, he flips the conversation and makes the issue your response to it. Why are you so insecure? I can't believe you don't trust me. I've never given you a reason to feel that way. And suddenly you're apologizing for having feelings and the original issue is completely buried. If you've been in this dynamic, you know exactly how disorienting it is. Because you came into the conversation knowing something felt wrong, and you came out of it convinced that the problem was you. Think about it this way. Imagine you're at work and your boss takes credit for your project in front of the whole team. You go to bring it up privately, and instead of addressing it, your boss says, "Wow, I can't believe you're this insecure about your role here. I thought you were more confident than this." You'd recognize that for exactly what it is: deflection and manipulation. But in romantic relationships, because our emotions are so involved, we lose the ability to see the same maneuver for what it is. The way you distinguish healthy passion from manufactured jealousy is this. Healthy passion draws you closer. It creates warmth and connection. Manufactured jealousy creates anxiety and competition. If you regularly feel like you need to earn your position with this man, like you're competing with other options, like you have to constantly prove your value, that feeling is data, and it's telling you something important. The mindset shift here is this: a secure man does not need to make you compete for him. He chooses you, and then he shows you that he's chosen you. Security is not something he withholds to keep you on your toes. It's something he offers freely because he wants you to feel safe. Game number 4, and I want you to listen very carefully here because this is the one that breaks the most hearts. It's called future faking. And it is the art of painting a picture of a future together that he has absolutely no intention of building with you. Future faking sounds like this: I see us living together eventually. I was actually thinking about us traveling to Italy. I can imagine you meeting my family. It sounds like commitment. It feels like commitment. It maps out a future in your mind and your heart. And here's the cruel part: it cost him nothing to say it. Words are free. And a man who is skilled at this knows exactly how much weight those words carry for a woman who is genuinely invested. Here's why this game is so effective and so damaging. When someone offers us a vision of a future, our brains begin to orient toward that future. We start making unconscious decisions based on it. We turn down opportunities. We extend patience beyond what the present situation warrants. We invest more, emotionally and practically. And all of that investment is being made on the basis of something that was never real. Now, I want to be fair here because not every man who talks about a future is intentionally deceiving you. Some men get caught up in the feeling of a moment and say things that are emotionally true in that moment, but behaviorally empty. That's its own problem, but it's a different conversation than the man who consistently deploys future language as a strategy to manage your expectations and delay your demands for real commitment. The distinction is this: future faking always exists in isolation from present action. A man who is genuinely building something with you will talk about the future, yes, but he'll also take steps in the present. He'll introduce you to the people in his life. He'll make room for you in his actual calendar, not just his imagination. He'll have real conversations about real timelines. The future he describes will look like an extension of the present he's actively constructing. But the future faker, the future only ever lives in conversation. And if you press him on it, if you say, okay, when do you think we'll actually do that? Suddenly, there's a reason it can't happen right now. Always a reason. And the reason is always plausible, which is what makes it so maddeningly hard to call out. I knew someone who was with a man for 4 years who talked constantly about marriage. He had a whole vision, the kind of wedding they'd have, where they'd live, the names of their hypothetical kids. 4 years of that. And then one day he got engaged to someone he'd been dating for 8 months. And she was devastated. Not just because of him, but because of the time. The years she had oriented her entire emotional life around a future that existed only in his words and never in his actions. The mindset shift here is brutal but necessary. Don't listen to what he says about the future. Watch what he does in the present. A man who wants you in his future is building you into his present right now. That is the only reliable evidence. Game number 5, and this might be the most unexpected one on this list. Most people would tell you that a man who opens up emotionally, who shows vulnerability, who shares his pain and his past with you, that's a good sign. And they're right. Genuine vulnerability is one of the most powerful foundations of real intimacy. But there is a counterfeit version of vulnerability that some men use, consciously or unconsciously, to fast track emotional bonding in a way that serves their agenda rather than the relationship. Here's what the vulnerability game looks like. Early in the dynamic, sometimes very early, he shares something deeply personal. His difficult childhood, his painful past relationship, his fears, his wounds, his struggles. And it feels profound. It feels like he trusts you. It feels like you've been let into something rare and real. And because you're a caring person, you respond with empathy, with openness, with your own vulnerability in return. And just like that, a deep emotional bond is created rapidly, intensely, almost artificially. Psychologists call this vulnerability dumping, when it's done without the gradual trust building that should precede it. And the effect it has on the person receiving it is powerful. You feel chosen. You feel special. You feel like the connection is unique. He doesn't share this with anyone, you think. And that sense of being the exception activates something very deep in most people. The desire to protect, to heal, to show up for someone who has let their guard down for you. Now here's the game within the game. Once you have invested emotionally in his healing, in his growth, in his journey, your own need for consistency, for commitment, for clarity, those needs start to feel selfish to you because he's going through something. He has a lot on his plate. He has trust issues from his past. And your very legitimate needs get quietly filed under too much pressure. You become the one who manages your expectations for the sake of his comfort. And he never has to be accountable because his wounds have become his shield. Think about it like this. Imagine a business partnership where one partner immediately discloses all of his past business failures, all of his betrayals, all of his personal struggles before any real track record has been established. And because of that disclosure, whenever you raise concerns about his current performance or his accountability, the conversation always circles back to his difficult history. His past failures become the reason his present behavior is exempt from scrutiny. You'd see through that in a professional context almost immediately. I want to be clear again. I'm not saying that vulnerability is bad. Emotional openness is beautiful and necessary in a real relationship. What I am saying is that vulnerability should deepen over time as trust is established, not replace the establishment of trust. And if you notice that a man's vulnerability is consistently used to redirect conversations away from accountability, or that his past is always the explanation for his present behavior, but never seems to move him toward change, that is the game. The mindset shift here is this: real vulnerability leads somewhere. It opens the door to growth, to honesty, to deeper trust over time. Performed vulnerability, whether intentional or habitual, leads in circles. You find yourself having the same conversations, hearing the same stories, extending the same grace, and nothing changes. His wounds do not belong in your hands to the exclusion of your own well-being. Now, I want to zoom out for a second before we wrap this up, because I know someone watching this right now is recognizing not just one of these games, but multiple. And if that's you, I need you to hear this. Finding these patterns in your relationship does not make you weak. It does not mean you failed. It does not mean you were stupid for not seeing it sooner. These games work on intelligent, emotionally healthy people. They are specifically designed to exploit the things that make you a good partner. Your empathy, your loyalty, your capacity for hope, your willingness to see the best in someone. I was talking to someone once, a woman who had a graduate degree, a demanding career, a strong social circle, and she was absolutely tangled up in a dynamic with someone who was running at least 3 of these 5 games simultaneously. And she kept saying to me, I know better. Why don't I know better? And I told her what I'm going to tell you right now. Knowing better and feeling differently are not the same thing. Your emotions are not a reflection of your intelligence. They are a reflection of your investment. And the fact that you invested means you cared. That's not a flaw, that's your capacity for love. Don't punish yourself for it. But here's what you do with it. You take that capacity for love, that real, deep, generous capacity, and you protect it. Not by shutting down, not by becoming cold or guarded, but by redirecting it towards someone whose actions tell the same story as their words. So let's bring this home. 5 games. The hot and cold game, which keeps you emotionally unstable through unpredictable warmth and withdrawal. The breadcrumbing game, which maintains your investment without requiring his. The jealousy game, which either manufactures competition or weaponizes your natural concern against you. The future faking game, which builds a life in words that never materializes in actions. And the vulnerability game, which uses emotional disclosure to bypass the slow, real work of building genuine trust. All 5 of these games have one thing in common. They are designed to keep you in a position where you are giving more than you are receiving. And the only way they continue to work is if you keep playing. Here's the core message I want you to walk away with today. You cannot love someone into consistency. You cannot be patient enough, understanding enough, or available enough to make a man choose you who hasn't decided to. And no version of making yourself smaller, more accommodating, or more perfectly whatever you think he needs, none of that changes a pattern that exists because it is working for him. What does work is this: clarity. When you stop tolerating the games, when you stop explaining away the inconsistency, when you become someone who simply does not play, the dynamic has no choice but to change. Either he rises to meet you, or he shows you clearly that he wasn't going to. And either outcome is more valuable than the months you might spend in the fog of these patterns. The question I want to leave you with is this: are you in a relationship or are you in a cycle? Because a real relationship moves. It deepens. It gives you more certainty over time, not less. And you deserve something that moves you toward peace, not something that keeps you perpetually reaching for it. If this video resonated with you, leave a comment below and tell me which of these 5 games you've experienced, or share it with someone who needs to hear this today. Like this video if it added something to how you see your relationships. Subscribe to Love Psychology Secrets because we go deep in this channel, and deep is exactly what real relationships require. I'll see you in the next one.